I'm just gonna let this go. And I think he's setting up the show, or is it Sam? I don't know. None of y'all know. I'm just here.
Live on the book, give me live. Hey.
Hey, everybody, what's going on? Welcome to our Counterpoise podcast. I am one of your gracious hosts, Samantha Adams. And
Hi, guys. I'm Malik Foster, another co-host for the Counterpoise podcast.
And I am Everett Stevenson, one of your final co-hosts as well. Today we have an excellent show on board. We're looking at a couple of different topics. We have a few articles that we want to discuss with you guys.
yeah, so today we're going to be talking about power, not the TV show. We're going to be talking about power in this country. We're going to talk about where the power resides, who really has it, and how it's all working out. So I guess we're going to start off. We have a clip. Now, let me premise this clip, okay? The guy's name is Richard. What's his name again? Malik, I keep forgetting.
Richard Spencer.
Richard Spencer. The reason why I don't remember his name is because I try not to remember the name of racists. But he makes a point in an interview with a couple folks. You'll recognize them. We're going to go ahead and play that, and then we're going to go ahead and talk about it. So go ahead and play the clip, E.
Are losing. We are living at a time in which white people are losing social dominance day by day.
You're afraid of being marginalized, right? Welcome to what it feels like to be Black.
You don't think white folks still dominating the world?
We do dominate the world to an extent. Look at the boards of directors of most corporations, tons of white people and Jews. Yes. But every day we hear, oh, isn't this great? There's more diversity in this corporation. Don't we need more people of color in films and movies? Isn't this wonderful? What is the trajectory? Where is the arrow pointing? The arrow is pointing away from white power. In my lifetime, what's going to probably happen is that I am going to become a minority in the United States. But what do I want for my great-grandchildren? I do want them to live in a white society, a European empire.
You don't consider yourself a racist.
I would never say something like, I don't like Black people.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's not what I'm about.
But you don't want me in your neighborhood.
Right. I mean, I think the country is fragmenting because at the end of the day, racial differences cannot fundamentally be breached, ever.
What?
Lots of people will come up here and talk about equality or opportunity or whatever. That's bullshit. I do care about power. Power is good.
Power is good if you're the boss or you're the slave owner.
I'm not going to help the situation by being a conservative that says, oh, I'm colorblind. We're all the same. God created us equal. That's bullshit.
Wait,
and bullshit never helps.
You don't believe in equality at all?
No. Equality? No. It's nonsense. There's no equality in nature. There's difference.
We don't want anything different in life than you do.
Are you sure about that? You just want what white people want?
Yes.
Yes?
I want a good family.
Yeah.
I want a good job. I want my daughter to live in a world where she's like, doesn't have to worry about discrimination. That's all we want. But in your world, if you get your dream, you're going to kill our dreams. That's the problem. It's like you want to put your foot on our throats. All Charles is talking about, I'm talking about is we want those 3 American values: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Sounds very enlightenment. Kind of, I'm tempted to say a faggy, to be honest. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Woo-hoo.
For 400 years, you've oppressed my people, okay? And the rhetoric you're spewing is more oppression. The generation I come from and the generations to come are not going to stand for that, because we're not going backwards. We're here now, whether you like the equality or not. And it's nothing that this country can do except for embrace their American values for every American and the millions of people that want to become American. So what needs to happen is the world as you see it right now, you need to start embracing the world where we see it, and we can come to some understanding where we can come to this. Okay? What's going to happen? Your great-great-grandkids are going to be brown.
We are living at a time in which white people are losing. So,
All right. So,
All right.
y'all go first.
We just pretty much watched that clip. I'll go ahead and jump off on this one first. I think for me, it was like comical in a sense, you know what I mean? Because like just some of the things that he was saying, I thought like just the distouch from reality to a degree that I think that he like kind of lives in was a little bit like that was comical to me. But also I'm gonna just throw this out here too. It might be a little controversial, but like I can understand where he's coming from within the sense of trying to preserve, you know, his race in that standpoint. Like, you know, like I don't think that any person, you know, should be wrong for feeling like they have a love for their whatever their race is. But I think it becomes a problem when you let that love bother you or hinder you from allowing other individuals to live their life to their fullest. If they don't have that same, you know, if they don't come from that same background. And I think that's the most troubling part about it, is because it's like, okay, that's cool that you love what you love, and that's cool, you know, you want what you want for yours. But it shouldn't be to the point where you feel like it has to be at the cost of someone else. Because at that point, then it's like, nah, you know what I mean? You're a threat to everybody.
Right. I do want to take a stance on something that you said, saying that he was out of touch with reality. I don't think he was out of touch with reality. There's a lot of, you know, white supremacists in this country in particular, and he's of the David Duke ilk, former leader of the KKK. So he comes from that. He's a disciple of them. I think he was just speaking from their perspective, like, hey, power is what we need in order to survive. So he was speaking from a survival standpoint and saying that, hey, it's just, you know, he mentioned something very important. He mentioned there's no equality in nature, there's just difference. And I think he truly believes that, like, hey, we're not equal, we're just different. He believes, you know, white people are better, so we deserve to have the power, specifically European people, because there are white Jews. So specifically European people that aren't Jews, he believes are better. So he just thinks that it's what's going to be the reason why they need to survive. You know, he's just thinking about it from a survivalist standpoint, and not saying something I think that's unrealistic or far-fetched. Maybe because I guess, you know, generally Black people don't think that way. That's why we think it's just like so surreal to us as a group of people, because we just don't think like that. We don't think, hey, we're better than you. We deserve to essentially, you know, how he said, how Charles Barkley mentioned, oh, I want to step, you just want to step on our necks, our throats. and he just smirked and laughed because that's essentially what he wants to do. He couldn't say anything else because he's like, wow, Charles Barkley echoed the exact sentiments I was thinking in my head. So that I just wanted to make that point. You have anything, Sam?
Yeah, I actually do think I agree with E with regards to the fact that the statements were out of touch. But I agree with you with regards to the fact that, yeah, we are all in him to an extent when he's talking about that we're different. But I don't think that one person is better than the other. You know, if you believe in the Bible, regardless if you think it was used to just indoctrinate black people or whatever, it does say that God is a respecter of no person. So, you know, that doesn't mean one person is more superior than another. We are different. We're supposed to be. I do agree that when people say, oh, I don't see color, that is bullshit. I agree with that because we all see color. I think color makes the world beautiful, but that's not what we're here to talk about. I do also wanted to ask a question to E, was you said you believe that he just wants to preserve his race. Do you think, as a matter of fact, I posed a question to both of you guys. Do you guys think that he wants to preserve his race, or do you think that he wants to preserve his supremacy? Because I think those are two different things. You know what I'm saying? Like, us as Black people, we always want to try to push the culture forward. We want better for our people, things like that. But, you know, we're not trying to do it in a way where we make ourselves more superior than the next person. Do we all want power? Everybody wants power, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be superior to, you know, to have it or to get it. So what do you guys think? Do you think it's more his perspective comes more so from trying to preserve his race or from trying to preserve supremacy, white supremacy specifically?
For me personally, I think that question, I can't speak for him, right? But what I think from the question that was posed is a little of both. I really believe that he looks to preserve, he looks at his race as, you know what I'm saying, and like the power that comes with it. Like we said earlier, like to the Malik's point, like you said, you know, we're just different. And that just we're just different means that you don't really understand actually how much alike we really all are. You know what I'm saying? So like that lets you know, that you don't really understand like how the anatomy of a person, right? So for me it more shows that like he just feels like because of that, like because of this race, it comes with a certain level of privilege. And I think that, you know what I'm saying, he may have been able to come to that thought and that conclusion through like whatever his experiences in life might have been, whatever he might have seen from the people around them, the way that they've been treated in other places, the way they maybe go to other countries and seeing how things are done. And all of those things have maybe, you know, allow him to kind of conclude that that's all hand in hand. So for me, that's why I feel like it's more so that I think the threat of the love for his race isn't so much the strongest as much as I think the fear of losing supremacy or his position within that is. And you know, you made a point a couple episodes ago where you said it's like, you know, it's not so much that like people are threatened by it's not so much that, like you said, like that the wealth thing is changing or that power is really shifting. It's just that other people are getting squoze out of the positions of power. So you know what I'm saying? The power isn't getting redistributed, but more importantly, it's just that other individuals who used to have access to it are now getting kicked out of that as well. And so we're starting to see some of that backlash that's coming along with that as well.
Yeah.
I think both, right? I think Richard Spencer looks at it from the standpoint of, you know, keep it from a survivalist standpoint. Like white people, European people, as he mentioned, cannot survive without power or white supremacy in this case, or without oppressing other groups of people. That's the standpoint he's coming from, and I think that's what he echoed in the video. His smirk comments about, you know, hey, I don't want to be in your neighborhood when Charles Barkley asked Richard Spencer, "Hey, you don't want us in your neighborhood?" He's like, "Yeah." He doesn't want, you know, Black people around, but I think deep down he does see the use for Black people. That's from his standpoint, like, oh, well, they're useful, they're different than us, we're better. You know, he looks at it from a white supremacist viewpoint, right? So I think he's looking at it from a survival standpoint, like, oh man, we're not going to keep surviving. And the guy at the end of the video, I don't know his name, but he mentioned like, hey, your grandchildren are going to be brown, right? So that's probably a real fear for him, right? So he's saying, you know, us European people, we have to grab power and essentially put our foot on their necks in order to continue our existence, because he wants to leave a legacy behind to his great grandchildren, his grandchildren. So that's the legacy he wants to pass on. He's thinking about the future, and you know, a lot of Black people specifically, sometimes we don't think that far down the road on the seeds that some of these racists are planting for their children and grandchildren. And sometimes we're wondering, why do these children in this diverse society that we now have and less segregation are still racist? And I think that Richard Spencer and the examples he showed in the video are some of the reasons why you still see some of the younger generation still racist and still implementing it, because it's obviously being taught and passed down from their elders, such as like David Duke to Richard Spencer and their ilk. So I think that's something to look at.
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. But one of the things I also wanted to touch on was the power aspect of it, right? Like that they have a lot. It's not necessarily only about race, right? Because remember, we want to talk about, where does the power reside? Does it reside within just one community of people, like white folks? Does it reside with, you know, corporations, or does it reside with the people, right? And you know, we'd like to think that it resides with the people, but when you also, you know, the thing about the discussion is that it's more multifaceted than, you know, we look at. Like on the surface, you just see a bunch of white folks at the top, but you know, what about these corporations? You know what I'm saying? These corporations also have a whole lot of power, you know, and with that, you know, there's some articles that we wanted to show to you guys, our Kind of Voice audience, that we wanted to get into with regards to that, so that you know, we can delve a little deeper, because it's not just about race. Oh, go ahead, E.
Yeah, because like you said, in to a degree, right, to that, because you know we do, and shout out to I'm not too familiar with exactly which company this was, but my mom always keeps me abreast of these notes. But I know pretty recently we do have a Fortune 500 company, which has I believe she told me, because it's like an AKA who's running it. But we recently just had a top female CEO who was Black, and I think if we can start to see, and you know, you've seen and heard of a lot of companies, you know, eyeing initiatives, right? You know, inclusive diversity type programs. And so we know there's recently been more of a push towards this to a degree. Yeah, we know that there's been more of a push towards these type of things, and we definitely want to go ahead and start to look into that. So I think it's going to be an interesting transition, and seeing how, you know, corporations take those type of stances and what type of efforts that they're going to do in order to do those type of things.
Yeah, like we have an article that we're about to show about Uber specifically, and what Uber's doing over there in the UK, and how they're utilizing their power. You got it up there, E?
Okie dokie, just
But while he's pulling it up, I'll just kind of talk about it a little bit, and Malik, you can jump in until he gets it pulled up. But pretty much what's going on in that article is talking about Uber and how they are pretty much trying to get rid of drivers and have the what's the word I'm looking for? The
word you're looking for is self-driving cars, and Uber trying to essentially what Uber is trying to do is combat the whole situation where blue collar workers want to actually be labeled as employees throughout the United States and Europe, where Uber is located at mainly, and they want to get away with essentially not paying those taxes. So that's why these people aren't labeled as employees. But Uber decided to actually partner up with another company and develop self-driving cars. I think we have the article here.
Yep. Yeah, there it is.
So,
no, this is the first article with the.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the article. Yeah, that's the right one.
Yeah, and they just they get a little deep talking about how it works and some of the things that they're also doing, right, with regards to, because it was also, I'm not sure if it's this article or another one, but it's talking about how there was some sort of a lawsuit, right, against Uber, because what they're doing is, in doing all of this, in the UK, I believe it was this article, in the UK, they won this lawsuit pretty much saying, hey, Uber drivers are actually employees, right? Because a lot of times they're considered to be independent contractors. There's a lot of distance between the company and the independent contractor for liability purposes. They don't get benefits, things like medical benefits, things like that. And it's one thing when you're talking about the people that just do it part-time for a little short period of time. It's something else when you're talking about the people that are doing it full-time, driving all the time, things like that. And they're not getting the same perks as a full-time worker would. They're not even eligible for unemployment, right? And so then the question, and Uber makes more than enough money. I'm pretty sure most of our viewers have hopped in an Uber at least once.
Yeah, because if you're working for Uber, legally you're labeled as an independent contractor, right? You're not labeled as an employee. So that's the issue that a lot of these blue collar workers have. They want to be compensated, get health insurance benefits, employee benefits, things of that nature. And that's really what they're arguing in this article. And the UK courts have ruled that, Uber can't do this anymore. These people are employees, so they're going to have to pay them a certain minimum wage and provide certain health, medical benefits, things of that nature to these employees. So in order to combat that, what Uber's been working on is what the thing is about Uber is they've been working on the self-driving autonomous cars to combat that. So now I think what's going to happen in the future, they're going to use a lot of this artificial intelligence technology in order to combat this, right? So even in the US, as the minimum wage goes up to $15 an hour, Uber can save potentially on hiring employees if once the self-driving artificial intelligence technology becomes mainstream. So do you guys have any thoughts about that? How Uber is combating what's going on in the UK?
I think it's interesting because I did see in that article towards the end, it talks about how Uber, Lyft, and a bunch of other those, I don't think they're all share ride companies, but they are the little gig companies. They spend over $205 million to try to combat the proposition. I think that was to combat proposition. I think it was 55 in California. But California is pretty much trying to do the same thing as the UK to kind of get away from treating Uber drivers as independent contractors.
Yeah, that was and that was one of the, like, that initiative already died. That was one of the things that was kind of getting raised a little while ago, a couple years back, that they were looking at with that. And that's one of the things that definitely was shot down. But also in that, though, like Malik was saying, and here's an article to that point, in regards to one of the self-driving cars in a race.
Mhm.
I know there's a lot of talk recently about like electronic vehicles. We know Tesla's been one of the top companies with that, as well as Nikola, some other ones.
That's the Microsoft one.
uh,
Yeah, you gotta get to the. I'll do
No,
it.
hold on. Let you finish, Malik.
Yeah. I was just saying it's the wrong article.
Nah, he's going somewhere with that. Go ahead, E.
Thank you. So again, this article that we have right here is just regarding talking to automated vehicles and how there's multiple companies that's interested in entering the race with vehicles being automated, such as Uber as well, Microsoft, there's Apple, like we said, Tesla, there's other cars as well. So this was an article that we had that pulled up that was talking about that in general.
Right. And one of the things I wanted to add about that is what does that do to the people, right? The people that are working, it might create jobs for people who are building these cars, right? But it doesn't necessarily do anything for the people that are working after these self-driving cars start working. I get it. They're trying to create the age of the Jetsons and all that, and that's fine and cool, but just give us a flying car. Stop taking away people's jobs, because once you have all these automated things going on, number one, there's a risk of liability, right? Because remember, Uber started trying to do this self-driving car situation a while back, and the car ran over somebody and killed them, right? So, what happens when the system gets glitchy? Like, there's a lot of questions. Who's going to monitor that? But in the meantime, think about all the jobs. Like, what about all the people that do drive for Uber or Lyft or things like, do these different types of gigs? It doesn't necessarily have to be Uber or Lyft, they're just an example. That if their job is pretty much replaced by a machine, what happens to them? Where do they go? How are they going to make money? And these corporations have that power in order to make these cars autonomous, or these jobs autonomous. And that's where I think the power struggle comes from, right? And then when you start talking about unions and things like that, unions are extremely powerful in this country. Nobody can change my mind about that. But that was one of the issues with Uber. Like, they weren't unionizing. And I think this is the next article where it starts talking about, I can't remember if it was Uber, if it was Amazon. One of them created their own union in some state. I can't remember which state. I want to say it was Texas, but don't quote me on that. But they're creating these unions so that they can try to balance this. You know what I'm saying? So that they can try to have some control over what happens with their own careers, their own jobs, their ability to make money, and things of that nature. I think that it's just very interesting that these corporations are doing that, and they're using so much of their money and power, because power is money. Money is power. It's not always power, but it is what it is. And I think that when they're able to just get all this money from the people and then turn around and like kind of say, all right, scram, we're going to go ahead and build machines to do your job, it's kind of a slap in the face. You know what I mean? What do you guys think about that?
Well, me personally, I think it's definitely something that we have to watch. Like, I see within this article as well, it was mentioning how, Uber had cut about a quarter of, its staff during the pandemic. And I'm sure that's probably like office staff, as well as the fact that, they may not have had as many people, as many drivers that was there working during this time frame. And that's nervous, because a lot of people can use that and do gig type work while, being able to try to be in between jobs while they're looking for other employment. So it definitely will suck to see that happen in other automated type of things work. I know a lot of times, like you said, you can go to like stores. You can see a lot of times at the grocery stores with the self-check. aisles and things of that nature, where a lot of service industry jobs just are no longer being there. And it's almost tripling damaging just because of the fact that there are so many small businesses that are being affected by this pandemic as well, that also might have changed, so that it seems as though a lot may be moving forward along this in this nation towards the whole, robotics vibe and and automated type of equipment.
Right. I think, like Mark Cuban said, artificial intelligence is the way of the future. So he's heavily invested in artificial intelligence. And the article there is Uber investing in artificial intelligence in this company called Aurora that focuses on autonomous driving, because they tried to do it themselves. They experienced a fatal car crash. I think there was a little litigation lawsuit, as the article mentioned there. So they're pretty much outsourcing their autonomous driving to another company that's going to help them. So probably in the next couple of years, you'll start seeing these self-driving cars as the artificial intelligence technology advances. There'll probably be less drivers on the road. So you just have to think, like, if you're going to order like some food, maybe your delivery charges will be less because they don't have to worry about paying the drivers. Your delivery fee might be less. So people will probably be happy that way, but there'll be less people working the jobs. So Uber will be able to save a lot on the overhead. They won't have to pay that minimum wage, about $15 an hour, that Congress is currently trying to push, and people are trying to, well, Congress isn't so much pushing it as far as the unions and people in general. There's some Congress members pushing it, but as a whole, it doesn't seem like it's going to pass soon, but it may pass this year or next year. So that's something that I think the companies are preparing for, because the minimum wage currently is what, is it still $7 and some change, right?
$7.25.
Yeah. So that would be double the minimum wage, and these companies aren't trying to pay double the minimum wage, right? So they're combating that. Amazon has increased their wages to $15 an hour, but they've also, cut back on stuff as well. So, and they're looking into artificial intelligence technology and autonomous driving as well. So,
but one of the things that you just said, I'm sorry to cut you off, Malik, but one of the things you just said,
let's finish,
makes you think about the food industry too, right? Because you go Chick-fil-A, people are like, all right, you could pay them $15 an hour. They got the greatest customer service. Their customer service is top notch, right? But then you go to McDonald's, where the ice cream machine is always broke, and the people be cussing you out for having when they get there, when they didn't order something right or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Or they just don't act like they don't want to be there. But that being said, there is a whole campaign that food service people do not deserve to make that much money. Let's not talk about regular waiters and waitresses at restaurants who literally only make $2.35 an hour, and they pretty much live off of their tips. That's why they're so big about tipping, right? Because imagine only making $2.35 an hour in 2021. With that being said, they've been talking about automation there as well, with regards to how you order your food, whether or not they'll remember your car, things like that. Because the argument in this particular article is like greeting, right? People they want to eliminate human error. They want to eliminate it completely. And not only that, they feel as though by using the automated system, it will actually make things go faster. Like, I think it cut off like 15 seconds in your order time and getting your food ready if you go through the drive-through. I get all that, but at the same time, like 15 seconds is not gonna be like, oh no, you took 15 seconds too long, forget the apple pie. You know what I'm saying? I just don't really see that happening like that. And on top of that, you're taking away people's jobs, especially kids, right? Because a lot of the people that work at a lot of these fast food restaurants are kids. It's like their first job. You know what I'm saying? It's not true for everybody. It's definitely true for a lot of people. And so you're taking away that experience for them to be able to learn how to work with others. And so, that definitely that definitely is a little bit of a concern because, we are all here living on this earth together, trying to figure things out. So, I don't think, cutting everything off for the kids being able to learn how to interact with one another, especially we're talking about kids who are already always on their friggin' phone anyway. You know what I mean? You want them to learn personal skills, learn how to be personable and be able to talk to people and things like that. So, I mean, in doing that, I mean, I get the whole business aspect and the business model portion of it, but at the same time, what are you doing to the people? How is it affecting the people? And what are the people gonna do about that? Like I get, like I said before, there are the unions and stuff like that, but every job doesn't have a union. So then what? What does that do to our unemployment levels? What does that do? How does that affect us as a global economy, especially in America, if we're the ones that are going to be putting this type of automation and stuff like that at the forefront? What do you guys think about that?
Well, Sam, I want to push back on something you said. I don't think it's human error they're trying to correct. I think that's part of it. I think that's just a bonus, but they're really worried about the expenses and overhead, right? Because it's more profit for in their pockets if they don't have to pay these people $15 an hour or whatever the minimum wage is going to be once they raise it, right? So, and a lot of states already have a certain minimum wage, so they already combating that. But across the board, across the nation, of the United States and as well as the UK, they won't have to pay these wages if they have those cooks. I mean, not the cooks, if they have these robots, any other artificial intelligence technology taking over these remedial human tasks, right? Such as taking the orders, they'll have a robot take an order. So the article Everett just pulled up was about McDonald's in Chicago, and it was testing artificial intelligence technology where people would order and it was like a robot voice and people were noticing it. But I mean, I think once people get used to it, they'll accept it and they're still going to go. They're still going to get their food, right? Their fast food. McDonald's is still going to be here. So people did notice it. They did notice a difference. They weren't a big fan of it, but they still ordered. They still went through the process and still got their food. So that's going to cut McDonald's expenses down a lot. You may have to still hire the cooks maybe, or maybe you can get the robots to cook, but you definitely won't need any retail people working the registers. You can have a robot there, maybe a manager, maybe the artificial intelligence operator, whoever program or the programmer for that system there. And that's it, maybe 4 people. That's it. Instead of a staff of 8 to 15 people, you can cut your staff in half. So you're saving money there and saving money. You're making money essentially. So what do you think, E?
Oh no, definitely think that clearly we can see that the move is moving towards autonomy. But I think also to kind of bring it back in the focus, the question of like where does the power lie, right? And so when we ask that question, I think we can look at as the people, as we've seen in the article originally, referring to the people in the UK. We can see how they all united and they kind of fought to try to stop this thing from happening. And Sam, you just kind of mentioned that's I came from like a union state, if you will, in Detroit. And so like, a lot of the automakers have unions and things of that nature. So there's big, Teamsters and stuff like that, and other unions that were around the nation. Those are really big, big organizations that help to make wages and things fair and help regulate, industries so that, people are able to maintain a certain type of living and companies aren't just, running high off the hog and just doing whatever they want to do and giving people, any type of living wages or not even livable wages, but any type of wages and expecting them to kind of just make do. And so those type of things are important. And I think that like that's one of the ways in which the power lies with the people. Because if people can unite and say, you know what, okay, instead of us all saying, you know what, fine, well, in my city, You know what I'm saying? The rates here for Uber are excellent because everybody has to drive there to there to here to here. No one has, there is no public transportation. So I'm cool with it being how it is. Don't put me on, you know what I mean? Versus a driver maybe in another city who's just like, well, I'm tired of these little trips here, there. I'm busting my tail going everywhere. I've been driving around all day, and maybe all I have for that to show is this, and I don't have to do my own benefits, and I maybe have to, try to kick in and pay a little something for healthcare for myself or something like that, or whatever the case may be. So I think that if we understand that the power for people as a whole lies with the people as a whole, to ensure that we hold the corporations who currently have a lot of the power to be more accountable, and ensuring that people have the most basic fundamentals that they need in order to make the type of lifestyle that we all look for. Like that man said, life, liberty, and justice. Right. So that's the dream that most people believe in America, and that's one of the things that I think that people need to kind of keep in mind when we look at things that's going on with this atomic world, as far as like saying like, how do we kind of unite together and say, you know what, no, we still want personal services in these places, or no, we still want whatever it may be, certain jobs to be regulated, because I do know that unionizing may affect those type of things, and then we'll move a little further closer to the autonomy, but they're going to do that anyhow, and I think it's up to the consumers and the workers to kind of unite to be able to like put things back in balance.
I gotta push back just a little bit. I think that the unions will actually push autonomy backwards, right? Because they don't want to lose their jobs. So I think that, unionization will help the people. I think also too, one of the things we didn't touch on is money, and what role that plays in obtaining power. The reason why I say that is, you might have the top 1% who is like, think about Jeff Bezos. Yeah, he may have just resigned or retired or whatever you want to call it from Amazon. He made all that daggone money during the pandemic and then he left, right? But he would not have made all that money if people weren't buying from Amazon, and that's how I think they were able to unionize in whatever state that was. I mentioned earlier, I think that was Texas, because they had such bad, they didn't have good conditions in that facility, right? And they went on the news, it went viral, yada, yada, yada. And so they were able to unionize and get certain things for themselves to help protect not only their lives, but also their livelihood and their jobs. And I think that, one of the things that I don't really know, because I'm not an economist, I don't really know how will autonomy affect the economy and what will that do to the power structure, right? Because if you have a bunch of people that are not able to work, who's buying stuff, right? And then if people don't have the money to buy stuff, what does that do to the corporation? What does that do to the top 1%? Those are some of the things I think we would have to watch over time, because I think that those things also have the ability to affect who has the power. Where does the power reside? Does it in fact reside with the people, or does it reside with corporations or the people at the top 1%?
Yeah, Sam. I think you were kind of touching on like the wealth gap, because you mentioned that how will people pay for things, and I think the wealth gap will widening and the middle class will shrink. So there'll be either people who have, and then there are people who don't have. So that can be an issue that will come up to play. Also, I wanted to mention that the autonomous driving is going to be something that's going to be here for the future, and the people are going to have to adjust. The power, I think, resides with the people, but it's up to the people to adjust, right? The companies and the corporations and the top 1%, they are adjusting, and they're utilizing the power that they have to win. And the people, their power is in their numbers, right? As a group. So when you're a unified group, you have power, but the individuals divided, they won't have power. So people are still going to utilize the services of Uber and still utilize the services of, still eat at McDonald's as well. because people aren't going to stop eating at McDonald's just because there's no more cashiers, right?
Right.
So,
They didn't stop when
people
they had the, what was it, green meat or pink meat or whatever the heck that was.
Yeah, so people,
Right.
so people are still going to eat their fast food because they're addicted to it, essentially, but that's another discussion for another day about health. But yeah, people are still going to go there just because, Sally the robot is speaking to you instead of Christina. Then you're still going to get your food because you're still busy with your job, trying to make money, trying to survive. So you don't have time to cook and, all that stuff. So you're going to still go through these drive-throughs. And this is a way the company saves money. So the company's winning. They get to save money and they can potentially have an increase in production and increase in profit. So these companies are for-profit businesses. They only think about the bottom line. They're not thinking about, their employees or workers at all, because they still have a market for themselves. Like, people are still going to eat. Like, just because those people have less money, there's still more money to be made of people who are working and who are busy driving, and people who are going to need to order food. So the main thing with Uber and McDonald's, they won't have an issue because it's food. They're in food and transportation and stuff that are essential, right? So people are still going to use them, whether there's more poor people or less poor people. People are still going to utilize their services. So does anybody have any other final thoughts?
I mean, I think we need all three. I'm not going to say need all three, but I just think that in order to survive in our country specifically, because we're a capitalistic country, right? We're divided by race, we're divided by money, we're divided by class. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, well, class is money, but y'all get what I'm saying. And I think that should it be that way? Probably not, but it is. That's how it is. That's the foundation of this nation. And the likelihood of those things changing are slim. Even if you look at the racial divide, like how when we opened up and that guy was talking about race and power and stuff like that, I think that although, generally speaking, white people are at the top of the food chain in this country, and they don't want to release that supremacy. But even if things were to change drastically and Black folks were to be at the top of that chain, let's just say Black folks, maybe there might be a situation where there's an issue of supremacy, but the likelihood is far, I believe, and I could be totally wrong, but I believe that the likelihood of Black folks treating others as if they're inferior is far less likely, for the simple fact that we've been at the bottom of the food chain for so long, right? But it might be different if you talk about flipping what goes on in classism, right? Because some people get money and they don't know how to act. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that when you're talking about who has power, the top 1% is going to be, there's always going to be a top 1%. It doesn't matter what they look like or how that is. Just the capitalistic structure of our country, there's always going to be somebody at the top financially. But when you're talking about race and you're talking about classism, like when you're talking about upper class, middle class, and low, the lower class, you're going to continue to have that power struggle. And I think that you were right, Malik. I agree with you when you said, we just have to kind of get in line and get on board, because changes are going to come regardless of what those changes are, whether it be autonomy in the industry or even something as simple as minimum wage or trying to change that wealth gap. I think that there's always going to be those types of issues, and people just need to get in line, get on board, and know what's going on.
Appreciate everything. I just want to thank everybody for coming out to the show. Once again, you guys can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on Instagram at Counterpoise Podcast. You can catch me on Instagram at thatguy2104. All right. Appreciate you guys all watching. I hope you love the show.
Yeah, you can catch me on social media as well. I'm on Facebook as Samantha Adams -ESQ, and on Instagram as Samantha Renee 77 ESQ. You can also catch us, like he said, on Counterpoise. Please like, share, subscribe, follow, tell a friend to tell a friend. Come check us out. We're here every Tuesday. We're starting to do these live. So if you ever want to engage, you want to jump on, you want to ask a question, you want to throw something at us, we're here for it. So thanks for watching. And we hope that you go ahead and follow us, subscribe, and all that other good stuff. Malik?
Yeah, guys, once again, I want to echo Sam's sentiments. Please like and follow us at YouTube and Facebook at Counterpoise Podcast. Please, once again, please like and follow us and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Counterpoise Podcast. You can follow me at Malik M. Foster on all social media handles, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. It's Malik M. Foster for everything. That's my personal information. And once again, thank you guys for watching our videos and supporting us in any manner that you can. So
yeah, we love y'all for that. We love y'all for that. Thanks.